What happens when your husband shows up at the door with divorce papers because of something you thought was just harmless fun at the club? Can a little freedom really destroy a marriage, or is my husband just overreacting? You won't believe how quickly everything unraveled after my so-called girls' night went viral. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. The notification sound from Ianthe's phone cut through the quiet Saturday morning like a knife. Martin looked up from his coffee, watching his wife of 12 years scroll through her Instagram feed with that familiar smirk spreading across her face. "Look at this," Ianthe said, turning her phone toward him. The screen showed a group of women posing at some upscale club, drinks raised high, makeup perfect under neon lights. "Sandra's birthday party last night looked amazing. I can't believe I missed it." Martin studied the photo. The women were clearly intoxicated, their poses suggestive, surrounded by men who looked like they were enjoying the attention a little too much. "Looks like they had fun," he said carefully. "Fun?" Ianthe laughed, a sharp sound that made their 8-year-old daughter Ella look up from her cereal. "Martin, they had the time of their lives. When's the last time we did anything exciting?" "We went to dinner last weekend," Martin replied, his voice measured. As an accountant, he was used to staying calm under pressure, but something about his wife's tone set him on edge. "Dinner?" Ianthe rolled her eyes dramatically. "At that boring Italian place where the waiter was older than your mother. I'm talking about real fun, Martin. Dancing, meeting new people, feeling alive." Ella shifted uncomfortably in her chair. Martin noticed how their daughter's shoulders tensed whenever her parents started these conversations. "Maybe we could find a babysitter and go out together sometime," he suggested. "Together?" Ianthe's laugh was even sharper now. "Martin, honey, you hate clubs. You hate loud music. You hate staying out past 10 o'clock. I'm not asking you to change who you are, but maybe you shouldn't expect me to become some boring housewife just because we're married." The word stung more than Martin cared to admit. "I don't expect that. I just think—" "You think what? That I should sit at home every weekend while you work on spreadsheets and watch documentaries about tax law?" Ianthe stood up, her chair scraping against the kitchen floor. "I'm 34 years old, Martin. I work hard all week in HR, dealing with everyone else's problems. Don't I deserve to blow off some steam?" Martin felt the familiar knot forming in his stomach. This conversation was heading in a direction he'd experienced too many times before. "Of course you deserve to have fun. I just worry about—" "About what? About me embarrassing you? About what people might think?" Ianthe's voice rose, and Ella quietly slipped out of the kitchen, leaving her breakfast half-finished. "About us," Martin said quietly. "About our marriage. About Ella hearing us fight every time you want to go out without me." Ianthe softened slightly, but there was still steel in her voice. "Look, I love you. I love our family. But I also need to feel like myself, not just Martin's wife or Ella's mum. Sandra's group goes out every few weeks. They're all married women just having innocent fun. What's wrong with that?" Martin wanted to point out that Sandra was recently divorced, that most of her group consisted of single women in their 20s, that the club photos he'd seen on social media didn't look particularly innocent, but he'd learned that voicing these concerns only made Ianthe more defensive. "Nothing's wrong with having friends," he said instead. "I just wish you'd include me sometimes." "Include you in girls' night?" Ianthe laughed. "Martin, that defeats the entire purpose. Look, I'll make you a deal. Next weekend is Sandra's actual birthday party at the Orbit. Let me go have fun with my friends. And the weekend after that, we'll do whatever you want. Deal?" Martin stared into his coffee cup. The Orbit was notorious for being a pickup scene, the kind of place where married women went to pretend they were single for a few hours. But saying that would only trigger another fight. His phone buzzed with a text from his mother, Helen. "Called 3 times yesterday. Is everything okay?" "Fine," he said to Ianthe. But maybe don't post everything on social media. Some things should stay private. Oh my God, Martin, it's 2024. Everyone shares their lives online. It's called being social. Ianthe grabbed her phone and started typing furiously. You know what? I'm going to text Sandra right now and tell her I'm definitely coming next weekend. As she typed, Martin caught a glimpse of her screen. She was posting in a group chat called Hot Mum's Night Out, and the messages were flowing fast. Ianthe: my husband is being such a control freak about girls' night. Some men are so insecure, lol. Sandra: girl, you need to train him better. My ex used to pull that crap. Jessica: married women need fun too. Don't let him guilt you. Ianthe: right, like, we're not doing anything wrong, just dancing and having drinks. He acts like I'm cheating or something. Martin's stomach dropped. She was mocking him to her friends, making him sound like some controlling monster for having basic concerns about his wife's behavior. I'm going to take a shower, he said, standing up. Good idea, Ianthe replied without looking up from her phone. Maybe it'll wash away some of that jealousy. As Martin walked upstairs, he could hear Ianthe still typing, still laughing at responses from her friends. From Ella's room came the sound of quiet music, their daughter's way of drowning out the tension that seemed to fill their house more and more often. His phone buzzed again. This time it was his brother Gavin. Mum says you guys are having problems. Want to grab a beer and talk? Martin stared at the message. His family was starting to notice the cracks in his marriage. The thought should have motivated him to fix things, but instead he felt a growing sense of dread. Downstairs, Ianthe was now on a phone call, her voice animated and happy, in a way it rarely was when she talked to him anymore. Sandra, oh my God, yes, I'm so excited. What should I wear? Something that shows I'm not some boring suburban mum, right? The water in the shower couldn't wash away the feeling that his marriage was slipping through his fingers, one girl's night at a time. The following Saturday night, Martin sat in his home office, trying to focus on quarterly reports while Ianthe got ready upstairs. The sound of her heels clicking across the hardwood floor, the spray of perfume, the constant buzz of her phone receiving messages from her friends, it all created a soundtrack of anxiety that made concentration impossible. Daddy? Ella appeared in his doorway, wearing her pajamas and holding her favorite stuffed animal. Is Mummy going out again? Yes, sweetheart. She's having dinner with her friends. The lie came easily, though Martin wasn't sure why he felt the need to sanitize the truth for his daughter. She looks really pretty, Ella said quietly, like she's going somewhere special. Before Martin could respond, Ianthe appeared behind Ella, and Martin's breath caught in his throat. His wife looked stunning, and completely inappropriate for a casual dinner among friends. Her black dress was cut low in front and barely covered her thighs. Her makeup was dramatic, her hair styled in loose waves that cascaded over her shoulders. How do I look? She asked, doing a little spin that made the dress ride up even higher. Beautiful, Martin said honestly, though his heart was pounding with worry. Maybe a little. Dressed up for dinner? Ianthe's expression hardened instantly. It's not just dinner, Martin. We're going to the orbit afterward. I told you that. Right, You just what? Think I should wear a turtleneck and mom jeans? Think I should look like I've given up on life? Her phone buzzed and she glanced at it, her face lighting up. The girls are here. Through the window, Martin could see a black SUV idling in their driveway, music thumping loudly enough to rattle the glass. Women's laughter spilled out of the open windows. I'll be back late, so don't wait up, Ianthe said, grabbing her purse and checking her reflection one more time in the hallway mirror. She kissed Ella on the forehead, then gave Martin a perfunctory peck on the cheek. Try not to be such a worrier, okay? And then she was gone, leaving behind only the scent of her perfume and the sound of the SUV pulling away with music blaring. Martin tucked Ella into bed, read her 2 stories, and then settled back into his office with a growing sense of unease. At 9 p.m., his phone buzzed with a notification. Ianthe had posted on Instagram, The photo showed 5 women crowded around a restaurant table, wine glasses raised, all of them glowing under flattering lighting. The caption read, "Finally free, girls' night with my amazing friends. Walland living my best life. Nar married, not dead. Har hot moms." The comments started immediately. Sandra, "You look amazing, girl. Ready to turn heads tonight." Jessica, "That dress is everything. The boys at Orbit won't know what hit them." Random user, "Lucky husband. Hope he knows what he's got." Ianthe, a random user, "Oh, he knows. Whether he appreciates it is another story, lol." Martin stared at that last comment for a long time. She was publicly mocking their marriage to strangers on the internet. By 11 p.m., the posts were coming more frequently. Photos from the Orbit showed the women on the dance floor, surrounded by men who looked barely old enough to drink legally. Ianthe was in the center of most shots, her face flushed with alcohol and excitement. At midnight, Martin's phone rang. It was his mother. "Martin, honey, I hope you don't mind me calling so late. I was just scrolling through Facebook and I saw—" Helen's voice trailed off. "Saw what, Mom?" "Well, someone shared a video. It's from that club, the Orbit, and I think it might be Ianthe." Martin's blood ran cold. "What kind of video?" "Oh, sweetheart. Maybe you should see for yourself. I'm sending you the link." The video was short, maybe 15 seconds, but it felt like it played in slow motion. Ianthe was dancing with a young man with dark hair and muscled arms visible beneath his tight t-shirt. But they weren't just dancing. His hands were on her waist, then sliding lower. She was laughing, throwing her head back, pressing closer to him. When he leaned down to whisper something in her ear, she turned her face toward his, their lips almost touching. The caption on the video read, "When married women come to play after Orbit life, no shame." Martin watched it 3 times before his hand started shaking too badly to hold the phone steady. His mother's voice seemed to come from very far away. "Martin, are you there?" "I'm here." "I'm so sorry, honey. Maybe it's not what it looks like. Maybe—" "It's exactly what it looks like, Mom." After hanging up, Martin sat in the dark of his office for nearly an hour. His phone kept buzzing with notifications. The video was being shared, commented on, dissected by strangers who had no idea they were watching his marriage disintegrate in real time. At 2:30 a.m., he heard Ianthe's key in the front door. She was trying to be quiet, but her heels made stealth impossible. He listened to her stumble slightly on the stairs, heard the bathroom door close, the sound of running water. When she finally slipped into their bedroom, Martin pretended to be asleep. She smelled like alcohol, cigarette smoke, and cologne that definitely wasn't his. "Martin," she whispered, "are you awake?" He didn't answer. After a few minutes, her breathing became deep and regular. But Martin lay awake until dawn, staring at the ceiling and wondering how many people in their town had seen that video. Wondering what he was supposed to do with the knowledge that his wife had let another man touch her body while cameras rolled and strangers cheered. Wondering if their marriage was already over, and he was just the last one to know. Sunday dinner at Helen's house had been a tradition for years, but Martin dreaded it as he pulled into his mother's driveway. Ianthe sat beside him, wearing oversized sunglasses despite the overcast day, nursing what was clearly a massive hangover. "Please don't make this weird," she muttered as they walked to the front door. "It was just a fun night out. People are blowing everything out of proportion." "People?" Martin asked. "Mum saw the video, Ianthe. My mother saw you." "Saw me what? Dancing? Having fun? God forbid a married woman should enjoy herself." She pushed past him and rang the doorbell. Helen opened the door with a strained smile. "Hello, you two. Come in, come in. Gavin's already here with the kids." The house smelled like roast beef and tension. Martin's brother Gavin looked up from the couch where he was playing with his twin boys, his expression carefully neutral. Ruth, Ianthe's sister, was helping in the kitchen, but she avoided eye contact when they entered. Where's Ella? Helen asked. Sleepover at Madison's house, Ianthe replied, settling into an armchair and immediately pulling out her phone. She's been looking forward to it all week. Martin was grateful their daughter wasn't here for whatever was about to unfold. They made it through appetizers and small talk, but Martin could feel the weight of unspoken words pressing down on the room. Finally, as Helen was serving the main course, Gavin cleared his throat. So, Ianthe, sounds like you had quite a night last night. Ianthe looked up from her phone, her eyes flashing with defiance. Yes, I did. It was amazing. Sometimes it's nice to remember what it feels like to be young and attractive. Young and attractive, Ruth repeated quietly, not looking up from her plate. Is there something you want to say, Ruth? Ianthe's voice had an edge to it. I think, Helen interjected carefully, we're all just concerned about... About what? About me having friends? About me not sitting at home every weekend like some kind of nun? Ianthe stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I am so sick of everyone acting like I committed some terrible crime. Ianthe, Martin said quietly, maybe we should discuss this at home. No, Martin, let's discuss it right here, right now. She turned to face the room, her voice rising. Everyone here has seen that stupid video, right? Everyone's been talking about it behind my back. The silence was deafening. Fine. Yes, I was dancing with someone. Yes, I was having fun. Yes, I was feeling attractive and desired for the first time in months. Is that such a horrible thing? You're married, Gavin said bluntly. You have a daughter. You have responsibilities. Responsibilities? Ianthe laughed bitterly. You mean like working 40 hours a week, taking care of a house, raising a child, and still being expected to be the perfect wife who never steps out of line? That's not fair, Martin said, his voice strained. I've never asked you to be perfect. I've only asked you to be faithful. Faithful? Ianthe spun around to face him. I didn't sleep with anyone, Martin. I danced. I flirted. I felt alive for a few hours. If you can't handle that, maybe the problem is with you, not me. Helen set down her fork with a sharp clink. That young man had his hands all over you, Ianthe. In public. While people were filming. How do you think that makes your family feel? How do you think it makes me feel to know that my own mother-in-law is stalking my social media, looking for reasons to judge me? Ianthe shot back. I didn't go looking for anything, Helen replied firmly. It was shared in a local Facebook group. Half the town has seen it by now. The colour drained from Martin's face. What? The Mums of Millbrook group, Ruth said quietly. Someone posted it this morning. There are a lot of comments. Ianthe's bravado faltered for just a moment before she rallied. Let them talk. Let them all talk. At least I'm living my life instead of sitting around gossiping about other people. You're embarrassing yourself, Gavin said, his voice hard. And you're embarrassing Martin. And Ella's going to have to deal with this at school. Ella will be fine, Ianthe snapped. She'll learn that women don't have to apologize for being confident and attractive. Is that what you call it? Ruth finally looked up, her eyes filled with disappointment. Confidence? What would you call it, Ruth? Please, enlighten me. I'd call it selfish. I'd call it destructive. I'd call it the behavior of someone who doesn't care about the people who love her. Ianthe stared at her sister for a long moment, then grabbed her purse. I don't have to listen to this. Martin, we're leaving. But Martin didn't move. He sat at the table, looking at his untouched dinner, his shoulders slumped in defeat. Martin, Ianthe's voice was sharp. I said we're leaving. You can leave, he said quietly without looking up. I'm going to finish dinner with my family. The room went silent. Ianthe stood frozen for a moment, clearly not expecting this response. Fine, she said finally. Sit here with your perfect family and judge me. I'll find my own way home. She stormed out, the front door slamming behind her. Through the window, they watched her call an Uber, pacing angrily on the sidewalk while she waited. I'm sorry, Martin said to the room. I'm sorry you all had to see that. Helen reached over and squeezed his hand. You have nothing to apologize for, honey. But as Martin looked around the table at the faces of his family, concerned, disappointed, angry, he couldn't shake the feeling that everything was falling apart, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. His phone buzzed. A text from Ianthe. "Thanks for humiliating me in front of everyone. Really showed your true colors today." Martin turned off his phone and tried to finish his dinner, but everything tasted like ash. Monday morning arrived with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. Martin was barely through the door of his accounting firm when his colleague Dave approached with an uncomfortable expression. "Hey man, you okay? Jennifer saw something online and she thought—" "I'm fine," Martin cut him off, but he could feel heat rising in his cheeks. Meanwhile, across town at the regional insurance office, where Ianthe worked as an HR coordinator, the atmosphere was thick with whispered conversations that stopped abruptly whenever she walked by. Ianthe, her supervisor, Patricia, appeared at her cubicle before she'd even finished logging into her computer. "Could I see you in my office for a moment?" Patricia closed the door behind them and gestured for Ianthe to sit. "I need to address something that's come to my attention. There's been some discussion about a video that's circulating on social media." Ianthe's stomach clenched, but she kept her voice steady. "I'm not sure what you mean. Ianthe, please. I'm trying to handle this discreetly, but I've had 3 different employees ask me about it this morning. Our employee handbook clearly states that conduct outside of work can be grounds for disciplinary action if it reflects poorly on the company." "I was dancing at a club on my own time," Ianthe said, her voice rising slightly. "Since when is that against company policy?" Patricia sighed. "You know it's more complicated than that. The video shows behavior that some might consider inappropriate for someone in HR. We deal with intimate harassment policies, workplace conduct issues. Our employees need to trust that we maintain certain standards. So I'm being punished for having fun, for being an attractive woman who dares to go out in public. You're not being punished, yet. But I need you to understand that this situation needs to be contained. No more social media posts about clubbing, no more public displays that could be construed as unprofessional. Are we clear?" Ianthe nodded tightly, but inside she was seething. As soon as she left Patricia's office, she pulled out her phone and called her mother. "Mom, you're not going to believe what just happened. They're actually threatening my job over a stupid video of me dancing." Sylvia Penn's voice crackled through the phone, full of indignation. "That's outrageous. You should sue them for discrimination. Since when can an employer control what you do on weekends?" "That's what I said. And Martin, God, Mom, he's being such a complete ass about this whole thing. Yesterday at his mother's house, he just sat there while his entire family attacked me. He didn't defend me once." "That spineless little man," Sylvia spat. "I never understood what you saw in him. You're beautiful, intelligent, successful. You could have married anyone." "I know, right? And now he's acting like I committed adultery or something. All I did was dance with someone who actually found me attractive." "Honey, you deserve to feel desired. You deserve to feel alive. Don't let Martin's insecurities destroy your self-confidence." But even as her mother's words provided temporary comfort, Ianthe couldn't shake the growing sense that things were spiraling out of control. The whispers at work continued all day. Her friend Jessica texted to say that her husband had seen the video and was asking questions. Even the barista at her usual coffee shop gave her a knowing look that made her skin crawl. By Tuesday, the situation had gotten worse. Ruth called, her voice strained and formal. "Ianthe, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." "What?" "Are you having an affair?" The question hit like a physical blow. "What? No. Ruth, how can you even ask me that?" "Because Mom showed me your Instagram. Because I've seen the way you've been acting lately. Because that video looked like a lot more than just innocent dancing." "I can't believe you're taking Martin's side in this." "I'm not taking anyone's side. I'm worried about you. This isn't like you, Ianthe. The sister I know wouldn't publicly humiliate her husband and then act like everyone else is the problem. The sister you know was slowly dying of boredom in a marriage to a man who treats her like a roommate instead of a wife. There was a long pause. Is that really how you see your marriage? It's how my marriage actually is, Ruth. When's the last time Martin looked at me the way that guy at the club did? When's the last time he made me feel beautiful, or desired, or even interesting? So you're looking for that feeling from strangers in clubs. I'm looking for that feeling anywhere I can find it, because I'm sure as hell not getting it at home. Ruth's sigh was audible through the phone. I think you need to talk to someone, Ianthe. A counselor, maybe. This path you're on, it's not going to end well. The only person I need to talk to is my husband, and he's too busy playing the victim to have an actual conversation. But when Ianthe got home that evening, she found Martin in his office with the door closed, talking quietly on the phone. She could only catch fragments of the conversation, but what she heard made her blood run cold. Need to protect myself and Ella. Yes, I understand the process. How long does it typically take? She pressed her ear to the door, her heart pounding. Evidence of what? No, I don't think it's gotten that far, but yes, I can document everything. Screenshots, bank statements, witness testimony. Ianthe stumbled backward, her mind reeling. Martin was talking to a lawyer. Her husband was actually talking to a divorce attorney. The reality of her situation hit her like a freight train. This wasn't just about a night out anymore. This wasn't just about dancing or feeling attractive or having fun with friends. This was about her marriage, her family, her entire life potentially falling apart. But instead of fear or regret, what she felt most strongly was rage. How dare Martin threaten her like this? How dare he try to control her by waving divorce papers around like some kind of weapon? She was still standing in the hallway, trying to process what she'd heard, when Martin opened the office door and nearly walked into her. Ianthe. His face was pale, his expression guarded. I didn't hear you come in. Who are you talking to? Work stuff. Quarterly reports are due. The lie hung between them like a toxic cloud. They both knew it was a lie. They both knew that everything had changed. I'm going to take a shower, Ianthe said finally. Okay. As she walked upstairs, she could feel Martin watching her, and for the first time since this whole mess started, she wondered if she'd pushed things too far. But the thought was quickly replaced by anger. She wasn't the one threatening divorce. She wasn't the one talking to lawyers behind her spouse's back. If Martin wanted a war, she'd give him one. The envelope arrived on a Thursday morning via courier, official and ominous. Martin signed for it while Ianthe was getting ready for work upstairs, and he stared at it for a long moment before setting it on the kitchen counter. When Ianthe came downstairs, she saw it immediately. Her name was typed on the front in formal letters, and the return address made her stomach drop. Coleman and Associates, Family Law. What is this? She asked, her voice carefully controlled. Martin poured himself coffee with steady hands. I think you know what it is. Ianthe tore open the envelope with shaking fingers. The legal documents inside were dense with formal language, but certain phrases jumped out at her. Irreconcilable differences, dissolution of marriage, custody arrangements, division of assets. You filed for divorce. The words came out as a whisper. Yes, without even talking to me about it. Martin turned to face her, and she was shocked by how calm he looked. Gone was the anxious, pleading husband she'd grown accustomed to manipulating. In his place stood a stranger, cold, determined, resolved. We've been talking about it for months, Ianthe. Every time you came home smelling like another man's cologne. Every time you posted photos designed to humiliate me. Every time you chose strangers at a club over your own family. That's not... I never... But the words died in her throat because they both knew he was right. I hired a private investigator, Martin continued matter-of-factly. After the video went viral, I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. Ianthe's legs felt weak. You had me followed. I had you investigated. There's a difference. He walked to his briefcase and pulled out a manila folder. Would you like to see what I found? Martin, please, we can work this out. We can go to counseling. We can... Look at the pictures, Ianthe. With trembling hands, she opened the folder. The photographs were date-stamped and crystal clear. There she was, leaving the orbit with the dark-haired man from the viral video. There she was, getting into his car. There she was, 2 hours later, straightening her dress as she got out of that same car 3 blocks from their house. His name is Liam Caro, Martin said conversationally. 29 years old, bartender at the Orbit, single, no kids, lives in a studio apartment downtown. You've been texting him for 3 weeks. Ianthe's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Would you like to see the phone records? I subpoenaed them yesterday. Very interesting reading, especially the photos you sent him, the ones you took in our bedroom, wearing the lingerie I bought you for your birthday. The folder slipped from Ianthe's hands, photographs scattering across the kitchen floor. How did you... You can't just... I can, actually. We're married. Joint phone plan, joint bank accounts, joint credit cards. Amazing what you can discover when you start paying attention. Martin's voice remained eerily calm. Did you know you spent $400 at Victoria's Secret last month? I was wondering who you were trying to impress, since you haven't worn anything like that for me in over a year. Ianthe sank into a chair, her mind reeling. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You're having an affair. You've been lying to me for weeks. You've been using our money to fund your relationship with another man. And worst of all, you've been doing it all while our daughter lives in this house, watching her mother destroy her family. Ella doesn't know anything. Ella knows everything. Martin's voice cracked slightly for the first time. Kids aren't stupid, Ianthe. She hears us fighting. She sees you coming home at all hours. She asked me why Mommy doesn't want to spend time with us anymore. Tears started flowing down Ianthe's cheeks, but Martin showed no signs of sympathy. I'm filing for full custody, he continued. I have documentation of your drinking, your infidelity, your increasingly erratic behavior. I have witnesses who will testify about your public conduct. I have financial records showing you've been spending marital assets on your affair. You can't take my daughter away from me. I can't take her away, but I can provide her with a stable home environment while you figure out what you actually want from life. Ianthe's tears turned to anger. You bastard. You manipulative, controlling bastard. This is all because I wanted to have some fun. Because I wanted to feel attractive and desired. This is because you chose to have an affair instead of working on our marriage. Because you chose to publicly humiliate our family instead of addressing your unhappiness like an adult. Because you chose a 29-year-old bartender over your husband and daughter. I never meant for it to go this far. But it did go this far. And now we all have to live with the consequences. Martin gathered the scattered photographs and put them back in the folder. You have 30 days to respond to the filing. I'd recommend getting your own lawyer. A good one. Martin, please. I know I made mistakes, but we can fix this. I'll stop seeing him. I'll delete social media. I'll do whatever you want. It's too late for that. He picked up his briefcase and headed for the door. I'm staying at my mother's house until you find somewhere else to live. Ella will be with me. You can't just take her. I can, and I am. Check the restraining order that's being served this afternoon. You're not allowed within 500 feet of our daughter until the custody hearing. Ianthe stared at him in shock. Restraining order? Martin, I would never hurt Ella. You already have hurt her. Every day for the past month you've been hurting her. And I won't let it continue. The door closed behind him with a quiet click, leaving Ianthe alone in the kitchen with scattered photographs of her infidelity and the wreckage of her marriage. For the first time since this whole mess began, she understood that there would be no talking her way out of this one. Martin wasn't the weak, passive husband she'd grown used to manipulating. He was a man who had reached his breaking point and decided to fight back with every legal weapon at his disposal. and she was about to find out just how devastating those weapons could be. 6 months later, Ianthe sat in her studio apartment, the only place she could afford after the divorce settlement, staring at the final papers that had arrived that morning. The legal language was brutal in its clarity. Martin had been awarded primary custody of Ella, the house, and the majority of their shared assets. Ianthe was granted supervised visitation every other weekend and ordered to pay child support. Her phone buzzed with a text from Liam. "Hey babe, want to grab drinks tonight?" She stared at the message for a long time before deleting it without responding. The bartender, who had seemed so charming and exciting during those first few weeks, had quickly lost interest once the novelty wore off. Turned out, a 29-year-old with no responsibilities didn't have much in common with a divorced mother facing financial ruin. The irony wasn't lost on her. Her mother had stopped calling after the custody hearing, when it became clear that even Sylvia's enabling couldn't fix the mess Ianthe had created. Ruth had tried to maintain a relationship, but the conversations were strained and awkward, filled with long pauses and careful words. The knock on her door interrupted her brooding. Through the peephole, she saw a young woman in a business suit holding a clipboard. "Ianthe Varall, I'm Jennifer Chen from Child Protective Services. I'm here for your scheduled check-in." The monthly visits were part of her supervised custody arrangement. Ianthe opened the door and forced a smile. "Of course. Come in." Jennifer looked around the sparse apartment, making notes on her clipboard. "How are you adjusting to the new living situation?" "Fine, it's fine." Ianthe gestured to the small space. "It's not much, but it's clean and safe." "Have you been attending the court-mandated counseling sessions?" "Every week for 6 months." "And how is that going?" Ianthe hesitated. The therapy sessions had been brutal, forcing her to confront truths about herself that she'd spent years avoiding. "It's educational." Jennifer made another note. "Your ex-husband reports that you've been consistent with your supervised visitation. That's good progress." "I love my daughter. I would never miss time with her." "How does Ella seem to be adjusting?" The question hit harder than Ianthe expected. She's doing well. Martin's a good father. She's happy with him." It was the truth, and it hurt more than any of the legal proceedings had. Ella was thriving in Martin's care. She was doing well in school, had joined the soccer team, seemed more relaxed and confident than she had in months. During their supervised visits, she was polite and affectionate, but there was a distance there that hadn't existed before. After Jennifer left, Ianthe found herself scrolling through social media, something she'd mostly avoided since the divorce. Martin's Facebook page showed pictures of him and Ella at a father-daughter dance, both of them smiling genuinely. The comments were full of support from friends and family. Her own social media presence had withered. The Hot Mums Night Out group chat had gone silent after the legal proceedings became public knowledge. Sandra had unfriended her entirely. Jessica had moved away and changed her number. The doorbell rang again, and this time it was a delivery driver with an envelope. Inside was a wedding invitation. Ruth was getting married to her longtime boyfriend, and the ceremony was scheduled for next month. At the bottom, in Ruth's handwriting, was a note. "I hope you can come, but I understand if it's too difficult. I love you, and I hope you're finding peace." Ianthe set the invitation on her kitchen counter and stared at it for a long time. She thought about the woman she'd been a year ago. Confident, defiant, convinced that she deserved more excitement and passion in her life. That woman would have been outraged by her current circumstances. That woman would have blamed everyone else for her problems. But 6 months of therapy and the harsh reality of consequences had forced her to see things differently. She picked up her phone and scrolled to Martin's number. They only communicated about Ella now, and their conversations were brief and businesslike, but today she felt compelled to write something different. "Martin, I know this doesn't change anything, and I don't expect you to respond. but I need you to know that I understand now what I did to our family. I understand why you made the choices you made. You were protecting yourself and Ella, and you were right to do it. I'm sorry it took losing everything for me to see clearly. I hope someday Ella will understand that none of this was her fault, and that both of her parents love her very much. She stared at the message for 10 minutes before hitting send. His response came an hour later. Thank you for saying that. It means more than you know. It wasn't forgiveness. They were far beyond that. But it was acknowledgement, and for the first time in months, Ianthe felt something that might eventually grow into peace. She looked around her small apartment, at the life she'd built from the ashes of her marriage. It wasn't the life she'd planned or wanted, but it was honest in a way her old life hadn't been. There were no more lies, no more deception, no more pretending that destructive behavior was empowerment. There was just the long, difficult work of rebuilding herself into someone her daughter could eventually be proud of. Someone who understood that real freedom came not from the validation of strangers in clubs, but from taking responsibility for your choices and their consequences. Someone who had learned, far too late, that some mistakes can't be undone. They can only be lived with, learned from, and hopefully, eventually forgiven. As the sun set outside her small window, Ianthe began writing in the journal her therapist had recommended. Today's entry started with 3 words she'd never written before. I was wrong. It was a beginning,